Oh, Kansas City Chiefs fans, I'll tell you what, Philadelphia Eagles fans, long suffering Philadelphia Eagles fans, they have empathy for you today because they've seen this story play out many, many times during Andy Reid's former tenure as a Philadelphia Eagles head coach. Oh, yeah, believe me, as a gambler, I've seen it play out many times too. That's why I didn't play Kansas City straight up yesterday. That's why I thought I'd outsmart the gambling gods yesterday and play the Kansas City Chiefs at a two-team teaser. Yes, because I always have issues playing any Andy Reid coach team as a big chalk because Andy Reid to me has always been a fraud. Andy Reid came out of that Bill Walsh coaching tree, a guy who was going to be, that West Coast offense, a guy that loved to take chances, a guy that loved to put points on the board, a guy that was always going for it. But truth be told, Andy Reid was only a guy that liked to take chances offensively until he got a lead. And then suddenly he packed up his bags and became a buttoned down guy who simply liked to play conservative, smash mouth football. Very conservative, liked to run the ball, clock management, and forgot to take chances and sit on leads and let his defense do the job. It didn't work in Philadelphia. It didn't work in the second half yesterday at home for the Chiefs. And again, long suffering Eagles fans, of which I've been one for many, many years, we've seen this story play out many times. And it's why one of the many reasons Andy Reid left Philadelphia. And it's one of the many reasons that the Kansas City Chiefs will probably find out, not this year, but in the next couple of years that Kansas City going to have to make sure that Andy Reid leaves the Chiefs as well, because they can change quarterbacks and they're going to have to revamp their defense, which is old and just can't get stops. But nothing's going to change with his conservative play calling once he gets a lead. They've got a good offensive coordinator. They're going to have a new quarterback. They've got a talented running back. But a 21-3 lead playing at home, it ain't safe. And again, I tried to outsmart the gambling gods. See, I can accept losing my top-rated 15-time best bet on Marshall yesterday because, listen, Marshall's been a damn good team for me. You play the Marshall Thundering Herd at home, a team that averages 89 points a game and gives up almost as many. You accept the fact that they're going to cover at about a 75% clip in their home games. There's going to be games like yesterday's, where they give up 300 points because that's the style of basketball they play, and you're occasionally going to get saddled with the loss. I can accept that. But a 21-3 lead when you have them in a teaser where you just need the damn team to win the game straight up, that's just a bad day. And it was a bad day all the way around for me because, as you know, I also lost all three of my complimentary plays. And you know how well I do with the complimentary plays. At least I didn't bet on the Rams. That's all I got to say about that. But, hey, we move forward. I lost, but a lot of the handicappers did not here. Chief among them, Tommy Brunson. Geez, he won again. Yes, he won again. Another 150-dime winner last night, because, yes, he had the Tennessee Titans. Now, I will tell you that Tommy sends an email through customer service midway through the day, and it says, doesn't look good with Tennessee. Yeah, well, it didn't at halftime, did it? Then he wins the game outright. So anyway, he has another 150-dime play going today. This is his second biggest play of the season in the NFL since joining the site in September. His biggest play was a 200-dime play, that one as well. Today, the 150-dime play, he goes for the 11th since joining the site. He is 9-1 with these plays. You've gotten them all for at least half price off. The same goes today using coupon code 150 Dimer, 150 Dimer. The other play that goes today that is a big one, it is Chris Jordan with the half price play of the day. 14th ever triple your wager NFL release of his 35-year career. He is 12-1 with these NFL plays in his 35-year career, including, I think, it's either 5-1 or 6-1 this year. I can't remember. It's on the site. You can check it out. And of course, his most recent triple your wager release happened to be on New Year's Day. It was in college football. Central Florida, the 10.5 to 11-point underdog, outright over Auburn. And all sports combined, he's 29-12-1 with these plays in 35 years. You get it as half price play of the day. It's the early game between the Bills and the Jaguars. $1 bettors up over $60,000 over the past 407 days in all sports combined. And that coupon code is his first name, Chris. Now let's talk about these games here. I'm going to give you my complimentary play on the game between the Saints and the Panthers. You know, I talked about the wild card history going back to the establishment of this round back in 1978, how it's all very cyclical. Last year, you had all 4 chalks winning by margins of 13 or more points. That was great, but the prior 3 years, the underdogs had gone 8-3-1 against the spread. But in 2011 and 2012, the favorites had gone 7-1. But in 2010, the pups barked in all 4 games. So what do we have yesterday? 2 underdogs, both winning outright. Again, it is all so cyclical. In terms of the totals, you had both totals yesterday, both games staying under the posted price. So the totals are on a, let's see. Just trying to think, 14-6. 14-6 the last 20 games over the past 5.5 years. The total has stayed under the posted price. Now, tonight's game, I don't see any reason not to ride the Saints, just like in the first 2 meetings this year. Now, when these two met in week number 3 at Carolina, New Orleans came into this game, they were 0-2. They were coming off a home loss to the New England Patriots. That's the last time they lost a game at the Superdome this season. But they were a different team. They were a team that had Adrian Peterson as their featured back. They were a team that was still searching for their identity, both offensively and also defensively, because this is a team that has certainly grown defensively because of the influx of youth on their roster. But they really, I would say, emerged that day. They harassed Cam Newton that day, intercepted him 3 times, totally shut him out in that game from a defensive perspective. And you saw as the season progressed, of course, they jettisoned AP, Alvin Kamara, who was a nobody in week number 3. Teamed with Mark Ingram, and in the rematch on December 3rd, it was a game that the Saints won 31-21, and it really wasn't nearly as close. And in that game, Kamara and Ingram combined for 23 carries, 145 yards. The one constant in those 2 meetings, those 2 wins, the 34-13 win in week number 3, well, that was Drew Brees. 22 of 29, 3 touchdowns in that game. And, of course, in the rematch, 25 of 34, 269 yards, and a 31-21 win. Cam Newton played better in the second go-round, 17 for 27, 2 touchdowns, 6 carries, 51 yards rushing. But, listen, Carolina did not play well on the road this year. When you think about it, they had everything right there for them in the season finale at Atlanta. They couldn't do a thing offensively because the second half of the season, especially after they traded away Kelvin Benjamin, Carolina's passing game was a figment of an imagination. It basically consisted their offense of Cam Newton, keeping the ball, taking shots downfield, or dumping the ball off to McCaffrey out of the backfield. They just don't really have a passing attack. A strong ground game with Jonathan Stewart, with McCaffrey, with Newton, of course, on the design keepers, but they don't have any ability to stretch the field. New Orleans, on the other hand, realized that, after years of just relying on Drew Brees, you saw the number of passes he threw, their reliance on him to move the chains, how much more effective their offense this year was with a strong ground game. And that's what's going to lead them to victory once again here today. Plus, this defense is so much better. Now, did the Saints lay an egg on the road this year, just last week at Tampa Bay? Absolutely. But again, they're playing at home. They've won 7 straight games at home since losing in week number 2 to New England. And I just don't see any reason not to play them in this spot, minus the 6.5 points. Although, at some sports books, you are laying 7. In that case, I'm absolutely buying down the half point in this particular case. So I'm going to go with New Orleans and take the Saints in this particular situation. That's going to be your complimentary play. Looked at a couple of basketball plays too, just to tell you after handicapping the card, I thought maybe Miami at home against a Utah team that gives up almost 14 more points on the road this season, which is why they're, I think, 3-16 straight up on the road, as opposed to what they yield at home, which is like 99 points a game. But Miami still, even though they're coming off the overtime win against the New York Knicks on Friday night and have won 3 straight games, it's like the walking wounded for the Heat. They fly the Red Cross flag prior to every single game. I thought about taking maybe a shot on the Utah Utes at home against an Arizona State team that had been 12-0. Then they go to Tucson, they lose to Arizona. Then they go to Colorado the other night, Thursday night, and they rallied from 6 points down in the final minute 12 of regulation to force overtime, and they lose to Colorado. So here's a team that goes from 12-0 to starting Pac-12 play 0-2. This is a team that since Utah and Colorado has joined the Pac-12 conference in hoops in 2012, they have a combined 1 win against those 2 schools in that Rocky Mountain sojourn of theirs. They just don't play well in those 2 spots. I think they're a combined 1-12 now in that twosome trip through the Rockies and high altitude. It would be tempting to go ahead and take Arizona State in this particular spot here. But again, the problem here is that suddenly Arizona State, a guard-oriented team that has a bunch of good shooters, they haven't been able to hit the broadside of the barn. And the loss at Tucson against Arizona, they only shot a combined 37.9%. And the loss at Colorado, they shot 36%. Utah is a team that got manhandled by Arizona on the boards, out-rebounded 46-23. And the Wildcats had 14 offensive rebounds in that game that led to 23 second-chance points. Well, Arizona State is not a big physical team. Again, a 3-guard veteran lineup team. Athletic, but not a physically dominant team like Arizona. So it would be tempting to take Utah in this spot. But again, I think it's just one of those stay away games, although I will tell you, Arizona State has never won again at Utah. Utah has covered 11 straight in the series. Utah has covered 5 straight at home in the series. So all the numbers point toward Utah, but Utah coming off a loss at home to Arizona, Arizona State in the doldrums right now. I think it's just one of those stay away games, but I had handicapped it, so I figured I'd review both of them. If you put a gun to my head and force me to bet on it, I'd probably go ahead and tell you to take Utah on this one. But this is not a good Utah team, not as good as previous years. Arizona State, if you stack Bobby Hurley's team on paper up against Utah, Arizona State is a far superior team, absolutely a better team. No ifs, ands, or buts. So it wouldn't surprise me if they got their mojo back today. I just think it's one of those stay away games. So anyway, the Saints are going to be your complimentary play. That'll do it. I wish you well. And tomorrow we'll talk about, they got that little game. Georgia and Alabama are playing someplace in Atlanta. We'll talk about it then. Good luck, everybody. I'll talk to you again on Monday.